In a previous video, I set up a internet monitor. What that internet monitor does is it checks the router to make sure the connection is established at the router with the Wi-Fi devices. And then it also, if there was an issue with that, then it would reboot the router. In that previous video, I made some updates so that it would also check my ISP's modem to make sure that it was connected as well to the ISP servers, or however what they call it. That being said, I went to deploy the application that I built, and when I tried to deploy it as a worker service, it would not run. It kept throwing exceptions saying values could not be found. It also was throwing exceptions for Chrome driver and not being able to find Chrome. And it took a while to figure it out, but once I did figure it out, I got it working. So I'm going to talk about the issue that I had and the coding changes that I needed to make in order to get it to work. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kenny and I am the Almost Engineer. If this is your first time checking out the channel, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. New videos come out every week on Tuesdays and Saturdays. So the internet worker or internet monitor application that I built, when I tested it, worked perfectly fine. When I ran it from the command line on the server, it worked perfectly fine. But when I went to set it up as a system service, I ran into some issues. And through some tweaking and trial and error, I was able to figure out what some of those issues were. So looking at the log output is what I have up here. You'll see that, this is me running it. I'm not in the directory that the application is in. I'm actually in a directory above that. And it started off fine, everything, monitor, the mode that it was in, started in the browser started up great. And then you get to here where you have this null reference exception. And in this null reference exception, what I found is that it wasn't loading the variable from the app settings.json file. However, the app settings.json file was in that directory. So I was kind of confused about what was going on, and more so confused of like, how do I fix this? And so I did some internet research and I ran across several posts that kind of mentioned about the content root path and how to set it and so forth. And so as you see here, the content root path is user/lib. However, my application, if you see up here at the top, is in the internet monitor directory under user/lib. And so what was happening was the application was using the current directory, and based on that, the application was using the current directory that the process was started from. And then from there, it was looking for the app settings file in that same directory. Because that app settings file was not in that same directory, it resulted in this null reference exception in one of the variables because it could not load the app settings file because the app settings file was not in that directory. That being said, and it took a while, it took me several hours to kind of trial and error it, and also to do internet research in trying to figure out the problem. Once I did figure out the problem, I made some adjustments and did some more research and finally figured out a solution that did get it to work as a system service in Linux. So what I already had, I had everything in this file as you currently see it, except this line. What does this line do? So in reading the documentation here for the create default builder, you'll see that it says that it sets the ihost environment.content root path to the result of directory.get current directory. Now, what does that mean? That means that when you are running this application, this variable, the content root path, will be set to the location that you're starting the program from. So if you're starting it from the root directory, it's going to set the content root path to the root directory. If you're setting it from the var temp, it's going to set that to var temp. Problem with that is your application's files or other libraries are not in there such as the Chrome driver and the app settings file. So when it goes to call Chrome driver, it's going to look in the current directory that is in, and it's like, hey, that's not there. I exception throw. And so that was the problem. So what I did some more research, and what I found is you can overwrite this value here. And so what I put in was this use content root extension method here. And what you're probably asking, well, what is all of this? All right, so let's start with the first part. So this first part of system.reflection.assembly.get executing assembly.location will return the path of the program that is currently running. And well, why do you need to know where it's currently running? Because more likely, if you do things the correct way, you will put all of your configuration files, any other associated files in the same directory as that executable is in. Some people now may want to put them somewhere else, and if you do, then there's a different way of doing that. But for me, I want to put everything in the same directory. That way, if I have to go do an update or I need to fix something, I know where everything is at. It's in that same folder. So this returns the full path to the running program, and it actually returns the DLL file name of the program. So that is, you can't use that DLL obviously because it's a file as the content root directory, because the file is not a directory. That being said, so then you take that full that location of the executable and you put it into system.io.path.get directory name. And what that does is it will take a file, an absolute file path. So that means the directory from the top level all the way down to the file itself. And it will strip off that file and just give you the directory that that file is in. So once I got that, then it sets this use content root. As you see here, it takes a it specifies the content root directory to be used by the host. So in this case, that would be the application directory. And so once I set this value in place, it overrides the default that is set by the create default builder. And it was able to pull the app settings.json file from the application directory. And so once it was able to pull that, then I started up my system service on my Ubuntu machine. And as you see, it is running. And this is the kind of the summary of the service. So you had to name the service and that it is active running and the start time. So it's been, well, it's been running for, at this point, it was running for 6 minutes. And then the processes that are associated with it. As you see here, there's only one process right now because I did make some changes to the code so that the browser does close after each run. But when it is running, as you see, there are, when you first started and you catch it, you run this command while it's running, you see there are multiple Chrome processes running, as well as some cat processes. I'm not sure why the cat processes run. I'm assuming it's spawned by the Google Chrome and the Chrome driver. And of course, you have the actual process itself that's running. So in an effort to save resources, I figured just close the browser in between iterations or in between checks. So that addresses this problem. So if you're having issues where your application is not finding the app settings, you in your, whether it be a web host application, like a web application, .NET Core MVC, or your worker service, like what this application is, chances are it's probably because the default directory that it is looking in is looking in the wrong directory for the app settings file, and you need to do like I did and specify the content root directory in your code. If you have questions about this project or the code itself, feel free to drop a comment down below. The code will be available a link to the code will be available down in the description, and also probably put it up as a card as well. please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Giving the thumbs up as well as subscribing to the channel also lets me know that you are interested in more content like this. So thumbs up. Until next time, peace out.